Hey everyone, welcome to my channel, Books, Curls, and Purrs. My name's Leslie, and if the camera is shaky a little bit, I'm sorry, that's my cat Ginger off camera, just rubbing themselves against my books while I'm trying to do this. Alright, so recently, Cobalt Dragon did this really adorable tag, easy breezy, so I thought I would just jump in and contribute. So the tag is, I'll get to it later tag. And the first prompt is a classic book that you have been meaning to read forever, but haven't read yet. And there's a ton of those that are right up here. And I plucked one down, The Labrynth of Solitude by Octavio and other writings. I picked this up from the last bookstore. I don't know, several years ago, and it's even a little bit dusty. So yes, I have not picked this up. I have not read it. That's a shelf that I'm desperately trying to get to. Nowhere near it. Once you hear in 2025 the plans that I have, you're gonna say, Leslie, it'll be a while before you get to that shelf. All right, so I'm just gonna read you the synopsis on the back. Octavio Paz has long been acknowledged as Mexico's foremost writer and critic. In this international classic, Paz has written one of the most enduring and powerful works ever created on Mexico and its people, character, and culture. Compared to Ortega y Gasset's The Revolt of the Masses for its trenchant analysis, this collection contains his most famous work, The Labrynth of Solitude, a beautifully written and deeply felt discourse on Mexico's quest for identity that gives us an unequal look at the country hidden behind the mask. Also included are The Other Mexico, Return of the Labrynth of Solitude, Mexico and the United States, and the philanthropic Ogre, all of which develop the themes of the title essay and extend his penetrating commentary on the United States and Latin America. So, this kind of conversation is up my alley, which is why I got it in the first place, and yet it sits up on the shelf. All right, moving along to the second one. A book on your shelf you haven't read yet. There goes my cat. This is a book that's on my TBR, my second small shelf. It's the last book I'm going to read for December, but at this point, I don't know if I'm going to get to it. And it's The Tunnel by William H. Glass. And this is an author I'm not familiar with, but apparently he's a revered author. And come on, you've seen the books I read. I don't read bricks like this. But this is a book I've always wanted to get to, and it just sits on my shelf. And so I'm so desperate to read it this year. And I have a feeling that I'm not going to get to it, considering even how this month of November has been going. I don't think it's going to happen, and I'm just going to have to take it. I'm still going to be able to have it. I'm going to be putting it back on my shelf. It's not going anywhere. But that's basically where I'm at right now. And so on the back it says, it's the author's second novel, hailed as an indisputable masterpiece. It is the story of a middle-aged professor who, upon completion of his massive historical study, Guilt and Innocence in Hitler's Germany, sets out to write an introduction. Unable to do so, he finds himself writing about his own life instead, an intensely personal, even private book that runs counter to the rigidity of his historical work. Isolated, he begins digging a tunnel out of the basement where he writes. And so I just know that when I get to this, I'm going to be so angry for how long it took me to get to read to it. But again, I mean, come on, that's massive. It's over 600 pages, I can tell you that much. It's over 600 pages. All right, that one hurts if I don't get to it. A book that you recently got that you haven't read yet. This book, I do have plans, which is so funny. Talk about contradicting myself between the book I haven't gone to in ages and I don't think I'm going to, versus a book I bought recently that I know I'm going to be reading. It's not going to be this year. It's going to be next year for sure. You Dreamed of Empires by Alvaro Enrique. And Ketchy from City Girl Writer is, I can't remember if they finished reading this or if they're on and off reading this. I feel like I saw the review and now it's like in one part out the other. I'm definitely going to need to listen to the audio. And Ketchy said that some of the names are just maybe if you're not familiar with how it's written, the audio would be helpful to know how to actually say the names. So when I do read this, I'm going to be doing a dual read between the audio and the book. This is definitely a book I look forward to reading, and this is like a revisionist history. One morning in 1519, the conquistador Hernan Cortez enters, you see, here I go, Tenochtitlan, today's Mexico City. Later that day, he will meet the Emperor Montezuma in a collision of two worlds, two empires, two possible futures. I'm gonna leave it there. It's basically like a revenge story, a revisionist history, and that's what caught my eye. And let me tell you something. I recently, you've seen Sam on my Thirst Fest segment. She's been on two of them. We were at a bookstore, and I was hell bent on finding this book there, and I couldn't remember the name of it. I don't know what I said, but I was like, it's green. I thought it was a white horse with a white horse. And she found the title and the book on her phone quicker than I could. And I like could picture it, but anyways, that was like a whole thing. And the bookstore didn't have it, but eventually I got it. And it was just one of those things that I just had to have it. So yes, a book that I plan on reading very soon. Okay. It's going to be in a couple months. A book you had forever but haven't read yet. This is another book that's from up in this section that I plucked down for this segment, and that's Horizontal Vertigo by Juan Villoro, and it says a city called Mexico. I started reading this years ago. I picked it up and then I could have put it back down. I think I wasn't in the mindset for it because not in terms of content, how do I say this, content, but in terms of the voice in which the nonfiction story is written. I was like having a difficult time getting into it. It was like I was getting like frustrated with myself. And so it's not a ding against a book. It was legitimately me. I just was not in the right headspace. And on the inside it says, at once intimate and wide-ranging and as enthralling, surprising, and vivid as the place itself, this is a uniquely eye-opening tour of one of the great metropolises of the world and its largest Spanish-speaking city. Horizontal Vertigo, the title, refers to the fear of ever-impending earthquakes that led Mexicans to build their capital city outward rather than upward, with a perspicacity of a keenly observant flaneur. Juan Villoro wanders through Mexico City, seemingly without a plan, describing people, places, and things while brilliantly drawing connections among them. In so doing, he reveals in all its multitudinous glory the fastidiousness and triumphs of the city's cultural, political, and social history, from indigenous antiquity to the Aztec period, from the Spanish conquest to Mexico City's day, one of the world's leading cultural and financial centers. I'm sorry, that's my cat scratching. Stop. Okay, here, come on. They love to be around me when I'm doing something. Any other time they're quiet. A book a friend recommended that you haven't read. Now, the fact that I have not read this next book is a crime. Not only was this book recommended, my friend gave it to me as a present, and I haven't read it, and it's one of those books that I wanted to finish yesterday. Still have not read it. Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Can you see that? Beautiful cover. nonfiction. A lot of these I just realized, I'm not even telling you if it's nonfiction or fiction. This is nonfiction, and I'll tell you a little bit about the author first. Robin Wall Kimmerer is a mother, scientist, decorated professor, and enrolled member of the Sisseton uh, Potawatomi Nation. Her first book, Gathering Moss, was awarded the John Burroughs Medal for Outstanding Nature Writing. So that gives you a sense of what the author writes about. As a botanist, Robin Wall Kimmerer has been trained to ask questions of nature with the tools of science. As a member of the Sisseton Potawatomi Nation, she embraces the notion that plants and animals are our oldest teachers. In Braiding Sweetgrass, Kimmerer brings these lenses of knowledge together to show that the awakening of a wider ecological consciousness requires a acknowledgement and celebration of our reciprocal relationship with the rest of the living world. For only when we can hear the language of other beings are we capable of understanding the generosity of the earth and learning to give our own gifts in return. And so I read, was it Banana Leaves a couple of years ago? And so this definitely feels like in the same, um, uh, within a similar conversation. I'll just say that. And so I feel very grateful that I have this book, and I'm just annoyed at myself that I haven't gotten to read to this yet. All right, a book you're procrastinating on. This is a book on my shelf. I can actually see it every day, and I want to read it. This is a nonfiction read. Have not gotten to it, and I just keep thinking, when am I going to read this book? I have to edit somewhere. And that's My Grandmother's Hands, Racialized Trauma and the Pathways to Mending Our Hearts and Bodies. So it's nonfiction. Let me see. Does this have a synopsis? That's a good question. The body is where our instincts reside and where we fight, flee, or freeze. My Grandmother's Hands is a call to action for Americans to recognize that racism is not only about the head, but also about the body. Menakem introduces an alternative view of what we can do to grow beyond our entrenched racialized divide and takes readers through a step-by-step healing process based on the latest neuroscience and somatic healing methods. And I know so little about somatic healing methods, or just, I hear that term here and there. So there's just so much to learn from this book, and have not gotten to it. But I'm telling you, this lovely lady stares at me every day and says, when are you going to get to it? The next book on my TBR, oh gosh, I just realized this is coming out later. I would have already read this by the time this comes out, but it is currently on my TBR. What is another one? You know what? I'll just stick with this one. I Know What's Best for You by Shelly, Oria. This is, I guess you could say this is an anthology, but it's not just a difference between genre. There's like fiction, poetry, photographs, creative nonfiction, plays, and 4 comics. And I'm reading this. First of all, this subject matter, unfortunately, is continually relevant. And it's called Stories on Reproductive Freedom. And Tommy Orange is a contributor. And for the month of November, I am focusing on either short story contributions or full-length novels that the author has written. And some of them are like right behind me. And so, yeah, this is next on my TBR. I would have finished this by the time this comes out. So if not this, then I'm also going to be reading There and Wandering Stars. So that's kind of like the bulk of my TBR right now is just focusing on Tommy Orange. And so, yeah, I look forward to reading this. Again, I love reading nonfiction and topics that I find, it's just important to to have any knowledge, expand my knowledge on, but I also know I'm going to be incredibly frustrated at the same time. That's just what it is. So yeah, I have all these books. Thank you, Cobalt Dragon, for doing this tag. This is lovely. I'm going to go ahead and tag some people in the details. I haven't figured out who yet, but you know what? If I did not tag you, do it anyways. It's okay. It's for everyone. That's basically what I'm doing. I just decided this sounds like fun. So here's my giant stack. Can I do this? Here's all the books. Oh my goodness. If you do happen to decide to do this tag, go ahead and tag me in it just so that I could see your responses. I'm always interested in what everyone else is reading, even if it's like not material that I necessarily gravitate towards. That's what I love about the booktube space, is that we're constantly engaging and just, you know, giving ourselves an opportunity to see what else is out there. It's a lot of fun. If you somehow have watched this whole thing with me, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate all your support. If you're new here, please subscribe, like, and please just comment below if there's anything else, any other tags that you would like me to do, if you're even into tags. I'm just kind of interested in what everybody else thinks. So thank you so much. See you in the comments.